Hi guys, it's Chelsea from Smoldering Serpents again. I'm back with part 2 of our Introduction to Our Snakes series, and this is the king snake and the milk snake group. And this one has 9 snakes total, and I just finished filming it. It went really well. When I looked at the footage, there was a couple shots of the younger, smaller snakes that were not in focus, so I probably won't have as much good footage of them as I do with the larger ones. But overall it went well. The colors came out a lot better than the last one, so I'm pretty happy with it. I'll give you a quick tour again on the new snake cages. We didn't get them quite finished, and I leave for Canada to visit family next week, so we're not going to get them moved in before I go, but as soon as I get back at the end of the month, we'll be able to get them right in there and do a proper tour of the stacks, but I'll just give you a quick look at how they're looking because I'm quite happy with them. So we'll hop over there and then we'll jump into the king snakes and the milk snake group. Okay, so really quick, here are the new cages. I'm not going to be able to get them all in one shot like I usually do because I'm using my phone instead of Andrew's. His phone is newer and it lets me have a wider angle, but I think you should be able to get a good sense of how it's looking. They're coming along really well. All we need to do is add in a bit more decor, some branches in these 2 cages specifically, and we need to add in all the water bowls, the hides, leaf litter, and a couple decor specific to certain cages and certain snakes, such as some ceiling hides. This one in particular is going to house our female Japanese rat snake, Jazz. Jazz, I don't think Jazz knows the ground exists because she just doesn't ever touch it. So we're going to try to put some stuff up on the ceiling for her to rest as high up as she can get. So there's going to be some fun little projects for individual cages that will come yet, but yeah, as of now, I'm really happy with how they're coming along, and like I said, as soon as I get back from my trip, we'll be able to quickly finish these up and get some snakes moved in, and then do a proper tour with these cages and the snakes that'll live in them. So moving on to the milks and the kings. First up, we'll do our black milks, and we'll jump right to that now. So we're going to start with, I'll say the worst, but I only mean in terms of handling. This is Skotos, our adult male black milk snake, and as you'll notice from this video, handling him is not easy at all. He's a solid 6 feet long, and he just moves non-stop. He's actually one of the least easy snakes we have to handle, not because he's at all defensive or even food crazy. He just never stops moving, and if you've ever held a black milk or something similar, their scales are extremely shiny and very slippery. So as you can see, I can't hold on to him even if I try. So it's basically just a constant treadmilling of letting him just roam over my hands and arms, and he always wants to go down to the ground. He's not a stressy snake at all. He's extremely outgoing and confident, and honestly, I don't think I've ever seen him nervous, but he just is moving constantly, and he just wants to go and explore. So this is not going to be the best set of videos, but he's the first one up, so I apologize for the shaky videos and kind of frantically trying to keep him in frame, but anyways, he is a really big, beautiful boy. He is 5.5 years old. He was hatched at a bit of a weird time in the year, so he'll turn 6 in December. So you'll notice in these videos that he is fairly slender. We do keep our milk snakes, well, all of our snakes really, on the slim side, especially compared to how other captive snakes usually look. Black milks are I would say one of the species I most frequently see overfed. Really any species where they have a reputation for potentially getting to a good size, you tend to see a lot more overfeeding because people, sometimes inadvertently, but often on purpose, will just shove food in them to help them or to try to make them grow to a giant size. Black milks can get big. I mean, Skodos is 6 feet. He's certainly not a small snake, but I see all too often people thinking their black milks are going to pass 7 feet, and that's just not very common. And the ones that I do see claim to be past 7 feet are often also morbidly obese. So I don't really care what length my snakes get to as long as they stay healthy. So Skodos is kept fairly slender. He's on the light side right now. Usually he'll have a little bit more weight on him, but he is a male. There's absolutely no reason for him to have any extra fat on him. He has no restless, hungry behavior, even though I don't feed my snakes usually based on their behavior, because as we all know, snakes will eat themselves into obesity, no problem. But he's usually a very content snake, and right now he eats a small rat every 14 days, I believe. It might be 10 days now. So he doesn't eat a whole lot of food for a 6-foot snake. I find that black milks have a bit of a slower metabolism, and even as babies, honestly, they don't need a ton of food to grow at a pretty good clip. And here we have Nyx. She is our older female. She's the mother of last year's clutch as well as this year's clutch. And as you can see, this is a very different pace of video. She is much more easygoing than Skodos. She's actually one of my favorite snakes. She is just such a sweetheart. And she is much more typical, I would say, of the species. She's moving around, she's curious, but she's not quite as frantic as Skodos is. She's also significantly smaller. She's closer to 5 to 5.5 feet. And she's gaining weight back now. She did lay earlier in the year. And of course, they always look slim after they lay. But she's putting weight back on, and she's just about back up to where we want her to be. You know, I think that when people hear the weights of our snakes, they tend to be a little bit surprised because we do keep them on the light side, like I said, but Nyx here is in perfectly good body condition, and she's only about a 900 to 950 gram snake. Sometimes she'll get up to 1,000 grams right before breeding just because she needs the extra weight on her going into egg production, but you know, Skodos is a 6-foot snake, and he sits at about 1,100 to 1,200 grams at his heaviest. I see a lot of people talking about their 2,000 plus gram black milk snakes, and I'm not sure how long they are, but they would basically have to be an 8-foot long black milk snake for that to be a healthy weight. So, you know, they're big, but they're not giants. They are so much more impressive and so much more healthy, kept lean and muscular, and honestly, I just think they're really beautiful when they're in a good body condition. So Nyx here is, she's 6 years old. She's a little bit older than Skodos, and she's just such a nice snake. She is, I would say, a perfect ambassador for the species, and honestly, a perfect ambassador for snakes in general. She's one that I don't hesitate at all just to hand off to guests in the house. She's so gentle and so calm. And like I said, she's one of my favorites. She'll come out of her cage, climb right up on my shoulder on her own. She's just, she's a real sweetheart. And here we have Nova. Nova is our 2-year-old female. She's completely unrelated from our other two. Actually, all 3 of ours are as unrelated as black milks get. So she is, as you can see, quite a bit smaller, only being 2 years old. She's got quite a bit of growth left to do. Usually, if you're not pumping them full of food, black milks will take about 4 years to really hit adult size. And of course, they never really stop growing. They just, they really slow down. So that plateau usually takes place about 4 years old. So Nova has a long ways to go yet, but she is also pretty good size, and I don't anticipate her being a giant, but then again, I wouldn't be surprised if she did eventually pass Nyx. Nyx is a little bit on the smaller side, but you can see that beautiful shiny belly that I love about black milks. And so Nova turned pretty much jet black really quickly. Usually it takes about 18 months to 2 years to really get into that black stage. Black milks start as tricolored hatchlings, in case anyone doesn't know. So yeah, Nova turned black really, really quick. At about a year old, she was mostly black already. So she's kind of looking like a mini black milk snake at this point, but it was kind of neat seeing how fast she changed. She's a lot more twitchy than our other two, and she's also a baby, so she might grow out of this, but she has always been a lot more twitchy. You can see when she touches me or when I touch her, she tends to be a little more, I wouldn't say nervous, because she is very confident, but she does tend to twitch a little bit more and jump back a lot quicker. But, you know, it's just kind of something that milk snakes can do. They are usually a little more jumpy than king snakes. But black milks are about as calm as you could possibly get. And Nova has she's really grown into having a really beautiful personality. She's gaining more confidence in her enclosure. I often see her peeking out sometimes. Yeah, you can see with the way she jumps back there. The other ones don't do that when I touch them, but she is a little bit nervous when somebody touches her neck or something. But I anticipate she'll grow out of it. So this is one of our most recognizable snakes. This is Hohenheim. He is our extreme hypo Honduran milk snake. And he's actually in shed here. I was going to wait until he shed, but I am due to leave the country in a couple days and won't be back till the end of the month. So I really wanted to get this video done. And while I normally don't bother snakes in shed, the Honduran milk snakes really don't care. They're really easygoing. And Hohenheim especially is just one of our most docile snakes that we have. So he's not quite his usual bright orange color. You can see little hints of it when the light hits him. I'll include a picture of what he normally looks like, or a video if I can find it. And when he's actually in shed, he turns a bright bubblegum pink. And I've definitely posted pictures of that, and everyone's always pretty enamored with that, but that stage only lasts a couple days, and now he's all cleared up and he'll probably shed in the next day or two. But Hohenheim is 5 years old, and he's a pretty big boy. Again, we keep them slender, so he doesn't quite look as long as he actually is, but he's pretty close to 6 feet, and he's about 1,000-gram snake, a little bit less usually. Hondurans in particular seem to have an incredibly slow metabolism for colubrids. So Hohenheim only eats either an adult mouse or a day-old chick, or sometimes a weanling rat, but very infrequently. And he'll eat every 2 weeks or so. So that's what keeps him looking trim. Here you can see him in the sunshine. That brings out more of his orange color. Usually he's a very bright orange with silver bands. He is a very beautiful snake. He's the one that wins over most guests in the house. He doesn't quite look real. And here's his mate, Cinny. Her name is Cinerus, but we just call her Cinny usually. And Cinny is looking pretty slim at this point. She double clutched without us intending for her to double clutch. I did make a post about it on our social media. Hondurans are kind of known for this. Even if you don't pair them a second time in a year, they will retain sperm and then produce another clutch yet. So Cindy surprised us with a second clutch 2 months after her first one this year. Ideally, we would like if they wouldn't do this, because it does take a lot of extra resources out of a female. Cindy, fortunately, is basically a snake that we always joke that is just made for motherhood. She handles egg laying so well and bounces back so quickly. She is thin, like I said, right now, but she's also regained a lot of weight back pretty quickly. She's also going into shed just barely here, so she's not quite as bright red as she usually is. Her bands are usually like a really dark gray. They're not quite black, but they're really dark gray. So they also look a little bit lighter than they typically do. But yeah, she's a real sweetheart. She is so easy to handle and interact with. She is another one that I love handing to people because she's just so gentle and inquisitive and easygoing and really, really cute. Hondurans have those really adorable little faces. This little guy is Rozzy, and he's actually a holdback from last year's clutch. So he is Hohenheim and Cindy's baby, and he's just over a year old. And the second we saw him crawl out of the egg, he looked a little bit different than the other ones, a little bit lighter and brighter. And we were definitely looking to hold back one from the clutch because we love the parents so much. We knew we'd want one of their babies to stay with us. So he was the one we picked, and I apologize, a lot of this video is just going to be out of focus. I'm not sure if I was holding him too close to the camera because he was smaller, or if there just wasn't enough in front of the camera to catch its focus, but when I look back over the video after uploading it to my computer, I saw that a lot of it's out of focus. So unfortunately, it's not the best footage. On the bright side, you can still see his colors, which are really beautiful. And he is growing into such a nice boy. You can see on his side there, he has a little bit of aberrancy in his pattern, and that's actually what first caught my eye, those little spots on his side there. He's growing into a really sweet boy. He has the personality of both his parents, which is awesome. And we don't really necessarily have breeding plans for him, but he will stay with us for his whole life. It's just really fun to hold back some and see how they grow up. And this little girl is Calamine, and she's clearly in shed as well, but to be honest, she doesn't look a whole lot different out of shed. She's much more pastel colored than our other three. She's completely unrelated. We brought her home last year. She will eventually be another mate for Hohenheim. I did not get very much good footage of her. Like Rozzy, most of it was out of focus. And I also didn't want to bug her too long with her being in shed. But so this is Calamine just quickly, and I'll get some more videos and photos once she's finally shed. So this is another recognizable and really well-liked snake. This is Auri, our 5-year-old speckled king snake. And I feel like I use the word weirdo a lot to describe her, but it's pretty much the best word I can think of. Her behavior and her personality are really quirky, all in really great ways. Honestly, she's a real clown. And while king snakes usually have a reputation for sniffing and biting fingers, she's actually pretty trustworthy, as you can see. She is crazy when we feed her, but as soon as she knows it's not time to eat, she's really just curious and likes to poke around. She's actually one of the most fun snakes we have to watch. In her enclosure, she finds the cutest places to sit. In fact, I'll put in a video of where I found her when I was going to get her out for this video. She's just a really enjoyable snake. Honestly, I feel like speckled kings are probably the most underrated king snake in my opinion. Last but not least, we have Demi. Her full name is Demosthenes, but we call her Demi for obvious reasons. She's a species that has many names as well. They are called variable king snakes, they are called Thayer's king snakes, they are called Nuevo Leon king snakes. They come in a huge variety of colors, and they're really fun. They're a nice small size snake. Usually they stay about 2.5 to 3 feet. Demi is fairly large for them. She's right around 3 feet long. Pretty heavy set too. But she's 7 years old, and she is one of our oldest snakes. And as you can see from the gloves, she is not trustworthy. In fact, she's the opposite. She will bite everything and anything in front of her face if she's in the wrong mood, and there's really no way to tell ahead of time. Often when I go to get her out, she'll bite the hook, she'll bite the leaves in her enclosure, but of course she cooperated perfectly for this video. She was very, very sweet. I wear gloves. It looks a bit silly considering she's one of our smallest snakes, but anyone who claims that an adult king snake bite doesn't hurt, I'm not sure if I believe them. I've been bitten by a good number of them at this point, and if it's a quick tag, no, it doesn't hurt. But the way that king snakes chew, if they really want to eat your finger, does not feel good. They have incredibly strong jaws. Demi is also especially stubborn with letting go, and typically resists any tricks that we've tried. So when she does latch onto something, it usually means a couple minutes of just waiting her out while she chews. So it's not pleasant, and typically I just don't even bother risking it because she is, as you can see, really, really nice to handle as long as she knows there's nothing even possibly like food for her to chew on. So we've had a couple variable king snakes over the years. We've actually bred them, and now we're just down to Demi. And king snakes just haven't really been the snakes that call to us as much as other types of snakes and other species. But Demi will stay here for the rest of her life. She is a very special snake, and she is very enjoyable both to handle when you're wearing gloves, but also just to watch in her enclosure. Her behavior is really interesting. She is probably one of our most nocturnal snakes, and if you wait about half an hour to an hour after the lights go out and then go look with a flashlight, without fail, Demi will be out climbing around on her branches and her ledges, and she's quite active. I know I hear a lot of people talking about king snakes being very terrestrial, sometimes even borderline fossorial, and I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think that them choosing to typically stay hidden during the day or fairly inactive during the day might contribute to that, but after dark, Demi tends to be fairly active and acrobatic sometimes, climbing all over her branches. So she's a lot of fun to watch if you know when to go and watch. And they're another really underrated king snake species. So that's it for our milk snake and king snake video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. The next one I do will be one of the rat snake groups, so either North American rat snakes or Asian rat snakes. We'll see which one I do first. But that one won't be till I get back at the end of the month, and we'll also have some caging updates as well at that point as we move snakes in. I included a little bit of extra footage here at the end. This is from this spring. This was our adult pair of black milk snakes courting each other. I just think it's a really cool video. They normally do not live together, but of course, when they're being paired in the spring, they are in the same cage. And seeing 12 feet of black milk snake racing around a cage is pretty impressive. They're really gentle and really patient with each other, and it's just pretty cool to see. Anyways, so yeah, that's it for this video, and I will see you guys in a couple weeks for some updates and some more introductions.